Hey everybody, it is Mama to Wife of One, and thank you so much for coming back to my channel or for visiting my channel for the first time. For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. Thank you for clicking on my video for whatever reason. I hope that you guys watch the video all the way through and that you're at least mildly entertained by my commentary on Married at First Sight. I am a mom, I'm a wife, I am an editor, I'm an author. I am all things words, a communicator. I'm a consultant. I do all those things. And I'm also a content creator. One of my favorite things to do is make videos talking about Married at First Sight. We are on season 15, episode 12, entitled Baby Steps. So in this episode, we're not brought back, but one of the newer experts, Dr. Pia, I want to say her last name is Holek. So I apologize, Dr. Pia, if I'm mispronouncing your name. I'm just going to call you Dr. Pia from here on out. She revisits the couples to basically see if there's been any improvement from the last time she visited with the couples. Now, the last time she visited, she met up with all the couples at the same time, and a lot of them were kind of in the midst of going through stuff, so it was a little dicey for some of them. And this time, she met with them one-on-one and went to their homes. And I did have a note in here. What do you guys think about Dr. Pia? I do find it kind of interesting that we still were not necessarily formally introduced to her. We had a couple snippets from Dr. Pepper and Pastor Cal, like, oh, well, our experts, are going to the homes to do this. And they just kind of had a broad view of it as opposed to, oh, let's introduce a new member of our team. Everyone, this is Dr. Pia. And then her having a little moment like, hi, guys, I'm Dr. Pia, and this is what I do. And I'm here to talk to the couples about this. Like, we never really got that moment. So I don't know if the couples got that moment, but as an audience, who have been following the show for many years, who have gotten used to Dr. Viviana, it would have been nice to have a formal introduction to Dr. Pia so we know who she is and we have an understanding of exactly what she plans to bring to the table in terms of being an expert. Regardless about all that, I think I like Dr. Pia. I like the things that she says. I like how calm and cool she is, but also like she speaks to everybody in a very relatable way. And so, yeah, I think I appreciate her right now. It is a little early, but right now I'm going to say that I like Dr. Pia. So we're going to start with a couple that didn't really have a lot, which was Stasha and Nate. I will say that I am liking Nate more and more as the season goes on. I never disliked him necessarily, and he never gave me any bad vibes at all, but I really like him. He just seems to make the most sense out of a lot of the guys. When he's speaking to just the guys or when he's speaking to Stasha, I feel like he makes a lot of sense, and I can really appreciate his feedback and really appreciate his outlook on everything. So for Stasha and Nate, Dr. Pia came to visit them, and the whole point of her visiting all the couples was to talk to the couples specifically about trust and intimacy. So with Stasha and Nate, when she came over, he told her, I asked Stasha if she had any questions for you, and the main thing she asked was, Stasha was asking herself, what can I do to trust Nate more? And I thought it was a really interesting thing that's still on her mind, that it still bothers her that she doesn't trust Nate all the way. This man has the wedding date tattooed on his hand. He went with you to the tattoo thing to do this. He also signed the post-nup agreement. I'm not sure what else. And I like the fact that she did phrase it as not something else Nate could possibly do, but something that she could do. So at least she recognizes that this is a her issue. It's not that he has said or done anything at all to make her not trust him. She understands that for me, it's something about me that's not willing to fully trust him. But it's nothing about him. It's more about how, and Dr. Pia hit the nail on the head. She was like, do you connect trust with control? Because Stasha, her moniker is that she is boss lady, because she's used to making her own rules, being very independent. She got her own house. She's the one that makes like $450,000 a year. So she is used to kind of handling everything. But now she's in a relationship, which means you're in a partnership, which means you can't be the one calling all the shots. So their assignment was to go to essentially a sex dungeon. It just looked like a house in the mountains, but basically this room was very romantic. It had the candles with the wax that you can use as massage oil. They had a basket that came with handcuffs, and they had a sex swing in there, and it was like, that was pretty much their whole storyline, is let's go to this room and let's put you in a position where you are forced to trust Nate. So for him, that meant I'm going to handcuff her to the bed and I'm going to put a blindfold over her eyes. That way she can't see what I'm doing, because she's handcuffed. She can't stop me from anything I'm doing. But he just kind of kissed her, put whipped cream in her mouth. It was very sexual and all that stuff. But I understood that this whole thing was meant to force her again to put her fate in Nate's hands, to not have control, to not at times not see what's coming, and to trust that he's going to take care of her and trust that he's not going to let her fall. Now, I feel like there could have been other ways it could have done this other than the sexual way. I know that at some retreats for work, some work retreats, they do the whole trust fall thing. So maybe if they set up some more things like that, that could have built trust with them as well. I feel like the sex stuff, I don't know. I mean, it was a cute scene, but it wasn't really a lot of meat there, I didn't think. I feel like we're going to get some more meat next week. But this week, it just kind of fell flat with them in terms of the juiciness of their storyline. I still think they're doing well. I think they're in a really good place. I do think that, like in some seasons before, everything seems to be falling on Stasha, not falling on her in terms of she's being blamed for everything, but falling on her in terms of she understands that she right now is the holdup to them really moving forward. He seems to be very comfortable with their pace. He understands that, yes, we do have this 8 weeks. I get that, but I'm not rushing this process because I plan on only being married once. So this is a forever thing for me. So let's continue to build every day, every week with each other, continue to have these conversations, to have these experiences, to continue to know each other and grow in love with each other. Her timeline is a lot more accelerated in her head, but again, I'm glad that she's realizing that that's her doing it. Nobody else is putting that pressure on her. It's mainly her. So hopefully she will kind of get over this hump and she'll learn to kind of go with the process and go with the flow. And Dr. P had kind of said that, like, you need to learn to let go and just let life take you where it will. And Stasha looked like her head was about to explode. Like, I don't know if that means what do you mean? I don't get it. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with them. I still like them very much as a couple, not just aesthetically. They look really good together. I like how it seems like they can potentially balance each other out, but they have a lot more in common than they don't have in common. I have high hopes for them. So I'm really hoping Sasha and Nate make it and, go the distance. I don't even want to do Alexis and Justin just yet because they exhausted the crap out of me. We can go to Morgan and Ben. Let me tell you okay. So Dr. Pia came to visit both of them at essentially Ben's apartment because Morgan does not live there anymore because she has moved out. What should have taken place after last week of Ben pouring his heart out and reading his letter, and Morgan basically watching him, listening him, letting him do this, and then refusing to read her own letter and then walking out. As Ben, I would have gone to the bedroom like he did, maybe had some tears, maybe come to grips with the fact that, man, I just poured my heart out to this woman and she just dismissed it. No response, no reaction, no empathy or sympathy coming from her. I would have reevaluated things and like, okay, is this really what I want? And then before she got in her car really good, I would have called one of the experts or talked to one of the producers and said, look, I want out. I want a divorce. This is decision day for me. This is not working. This is not worth it. I feel like I'm putting forth the effort, but my effort is not being matched. I also feel like there's a lot of internal work that I need to do to make myself a better person and to make it so that I love myself a little bit more. Because maybe if I love myself a little bit more and appreciated myself a little bit more, I wouldn't intentionally put myself in the way of someone who is only causing me hurt. And yes, I've caused her hurt, but yes, I have apologized. I don't know what else I can possibly do. So I think the only sane thing for me to do is to pull the plug on this. Because if I don't, she'll just stay in this just because. And it's clear that she doesn't really want to work on this. It's clear that she doesn't really want to give this another try or give me another chance. So I think I'm going to have to be the one to pull the plug. Let's just call it quits. I want out. I don't necessarily want to meet with her again because I don't think that would do any good. So as the expert, I'm telling you that I want. I'm telling you I want divorce. I'm going to leave it up to you guys to, convey that message to Morgan. Let her know that I want out. I will sign whatever you want me to sign, pay whatever fine you want me to pay. But I don't need to see her again, or I don't need to be on camera again either. That would have been the phone call that I made that very night. Because at the end of the day, despite what Morgan says Ben did, despite how Ben has made her feel, and despite how angry she still is, I personally, as a viewer, have not seen any evidence of her being a good wife. I have not seen her being loving at all, or romantic, or sympathetic, or anything at all to him. When they were having that good moment where they were getting back on good footing and they were sharing, their childhood, and he was sharing his trauma and all that stuff, there was no real reaction from her. No, oh wow, I feel for you, and oh yeah, I can't wait to go on this journey with you. No hug, no nothing at all. And even when he read his letter, the least she could have said was, I appreciate you sharing that with me. I know that was really hard for you to write, and I can see all the hard work that you're doing to get to the crux of a lot of the issues that you feel you have. And I appreciate you doing that. However, I'm not overly comfortable sharing or something. It's some kind of acknowledgement. Even this episode, she's like, we're telling the story of he broke my trust. And it's just so emotional for me. And she's crying. And what does he do? He gets up, he goes to the back room like a dutiful husband, and he gets her tissue to wipe her tears. You know what she doesn't do? She doesn't even say thank you. And for me, like one thing I'm very big on when it comes to my babies, I'm all about manners. You will say please, you will say thank you, you will open the door for someone. Like my son, he's 13 years old. He opens the car door for me and his sister every time we go to the car. I make sure that he's learning once you get older, you're gonna have to walk on the outside while the girl walks on the inside. Like we talk about manners and just being polite all the time because that goes a long freaking way. And for you not to even say thank you when my man gets you a tissue, you can be pissing in your feelings all you want. But this is a prime example of how you don't even acknowledge any of the stuff that he's doing. Even something as simple as passing you some tissue, that you would say thank you to a stranger who did that. You couldn't even say thank you to him. Like that bothered me a lot because, again, I feel it's indicative of the fact that she is very dismissive of him and all of his efforts and everything that he's put into this. And at this point, from both sides, I don't know why you both are still here. Because you can't really tell me you still want this marriage. You can't really tell me you still want this to work. You can't really tell me you even see a future between the two of you. There's no possible way that either one of you can say any of those things. Like, absolutely not. And another thing I had an issue with, and I don't know if they left some stuff out on the editing floor because the episode may have been getting long, I didn't see enough of Dr. P holding Morgan accountable. She started with Morgan first, and what I want to see is at least one time have the experts meet with Ben and Morgan and someone ask Ben first, what is going on with you, Ben? How do you feel? I want him to get that attention because it's always him reacting to whatever she said. And that bothers me because, yes, Morgan is upset, but it doesn't mean Ben isn't upset as well. It doesn't mean Ben doesn't have a right to be upset. And I feel bad for him because he is slightly intimidated by how strong-willed Morgan is. And because of that, he stumbles over his words when he's around her. And I feel like his nervousness over saying the wrong thing or his nervousness about how she may potentially blow up is making him develop this speech pattern. Because I don't know if the speech pattern was always there. I don't know if he's always stumbled over his words. I don't remember hearing that before. But I feel like, this trauma has kind of brought that out in him. And it bothers me. I just don't feel like any of the experts have really held her feet to the fire as well. Like, okay, but Morgan, I understand you're upset, but, we gave you guys these exercises, like writing a letter to your younger self. And the whole point of the exercise was to share that with the other person. You knew that was the assignment. If you knew then that you were not comfortable doing it, you should have said something. Or if you didn't know then and you discovered later, I don't really want to do this, you should have called him and told him that. But you coming to hear him spew out his letter, encouraging him to go first, hearing all of his, trauma and all the stuff that he's going through, whatever, and you, A, not responding, and then B, refusing to read your letter, that was just cruel. And you knew that you were coming over there with no intention of opening yourself up. So that was cruel, and that was a waste of everybody's time, and that was unnecessary. And, okay, what did I put in here in my notes? So I put that you should have called the experts and told me one of the divorce, like first and foremost in facts, that should have been happening. And I put that he's always catering to her, and she doesn't take the time to notice or acknowledge his feelings, or again, notice or acknowledge his efforts at all. And this is the other thing that bothers me. Whenever she's in front of the experts, she'll say, well, I think sometimes maybe I didn't create a safe space. You say that only when the experts are around. And when you say those words, you're saying them directly to the experts. You are not saying that to Ben at all. And it's almost like you're saying something so that they're not looking at you as the victim. So almost like you're trying to, almost like you're making a false effort to acknowledge your part, your possible part in all this. Like, well, maybe I could have done this. Maybe I didn't do this. But again, it's only when the experts are physically in front of her face. She has never said to Ben one-on-one, I could have done a better job of creating a safe space for you so that you felt comfortable talking to me. I know I could have done that. But what I need you to understand is how it hurts me that you did blah, 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 blah. Any of that would have been fine. None of that took place. She only acknowledges her part when other people are around, which really bothers the crap out of me, which means you don't really believe it. And you keep saying, like, well, Ben, he's just telling people whatever, and I just have to defend myself. No, you don't actually. Nobody's coming at you at all. You're telling the girls whatever you want to tell them. You're telling them your side. And so the girls are all on your side. Who are you having to defend yourself from? Nobody. Ben is going to the guys just like you're going to the girls, but nobody is coming at you, Morgan, to say you're this awful person. Not one solitary person. And you really believe, granted, we still don't know exactly what he did or did not tell Justin. She's making it seem like he's telling Justin all these lies about her. We don't know what those lies are. We have not heard not one solitary thing that he's actually told Justin. So I don't even know. I don't even know. I don't know if he's actually telling lies or if he's just complaining. Like, we really don't know at this point. All we have is her basically painting him as this awful person, and we have him looking so utterly defeated and almost scared of this woman. He barely looks at this woman in the eye. Like, he's even afraid to do that. And truthfully, outside of their talking to Dr. Pia, and then outside of him meeting with the guys and her meeting with the girls, we don't see them again this episode. So they have no intimacy conversation or intimacy challenge like everybody else did. The one thing that she said that she wants, that Morgan says she wants, she doesn't feel like she's gotten a real apology from Ben. She's like, you say you feel guilty, but I don't feel you feel guilty. A, you can't tell him how he does and does not feel. We all know that. But B, what more do you think he's supposed to do? That's the part I don't understand. Like, how else? Like, he's already said that he feels horrible. He wrote this letter talking about his own demons. He signed up for therapy because he realizes that he can't be the best husband he wants to be because he still has these things that are, weighing him down, that's stopping him from being open and stopping him from standing up or whatever. He's admitted all the things that he's doing because he realizes, okay, what I've been doing was not right. I need to get to the crux of this and I need to fix this so that I can be there for you the way I need to be there for you. But again, she doesn't acknowledge any of that. So what more do you want this man to do? And Nate hit it on the head. When they met up with all the guys, Nate said, how can Morgan emotionally receive an apology if she's defensive? And he said that Morgan won't believe him anyway when he apologizes, which I agree with. You want him to tap dance and do cartwheels and all this stuff to apologize. But once he does that, who's to say you're still going to believe him? I don't think he's been lying all the time when he said that he's been sorry. He's the one that's still showing up, trying to make the marriage work or whatever. So what more do you actually want from him? I don't understand. And you're not going to get it. I don't say you're not going to get it. I don't think Morgan even knows what she wants. I think all of this is meant to continue to humiliate Ben personally. She does not want this marriage to work. She does not want to be married to Ben, but she does not want to be the one to pull the plug either. So that's why I said Ben needs to do it. He needs to man up and be like, you know what, this is not worth it. And honestly, if you guys watch the episode all the way through, you saw that at the end of most episodes, especially this far down into the season, they show glimpses of the what's the heck was the day? The decision day. They show glimpses of it because they show like the couples on the couch. They just kind of do like a quick flash of, people twisting their rings or looking in the distance or dabbing their wet eyes. And if you saw in that montage of flashes of people on decision day, not once did we see Morgan or Ben. They don't make it to decision day. We purposely do not see their faces at all. I peeped that. I'm sure you peeped it too. But obviously, they're not making it to decision day. I don't know why we keep drawing it out. So one of them needs to pull the plug, and I really want it to be Ben because I need him to reclaim some amount of power in the situation. Again, my personal opinion. We're going to Lindy Miguel because nothing happened with them either. This is so interesting. You can tell that the experts need to stir up some trouble, need to stir up a little bit of trauma. Because Lindy Miguel didn't get a visit from Dr. Pia. I want to say, yeah, they're the only ones who did not get a visit from Dr. Pia because apparently their intimacy and their trust is top notch. They are A-okay. So because they're great, what they got to say it was a fake baby. I don't remember them doing this before on the show. Correct me if I'm wrong. In 15 seasons, I don't remember this being a thing. And obviously it was meant to kind of give them screen time and meant to give them something to kind of not quarrel about, but just meant to kind of throw a monkey wrench in the plan. Like, oh, you guys are being so happy and loving. Oh, that's so cute. Here, we're going to throw this in there to see how you guys do with this. So they got a fake baby that would cry on demand. that they had to change their diaper, had to give him a bottle. They called him McGindy, which is stupid. And they also answered a couple questions on Jenga pieces. That was like their intimacy exercise. Again, it was really like simple because it was just one question on there. I want to say she had to do a body shot. Okay, let me say this. I've personally never done a body shot, but isn't a body shot when you pour liquor into like a belly button and you slurp it out the belly button, which sounds completely disgusting to me. But they put the body shot in a glass, like in a shot glass, and he put the shot glass over his belly button. But that's not the way you do it, right? Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. That was my assumption, that you're actually drinking the shot off of the person's body, not from a glass, because then that's not really a body shot anymore. I could be wrong, but comment down below and let me know, because I don't know. So Miguel, when he met up with the guys, he had the baby carrier, which is look like, okay, you look ridiculous. He says that the baby's another level of intimacy, which it is. And he's all for it. Like, he was getting up every 2 hours with the baby, patting the baby, doing all this great stuff. He's really excited because he really wants to be a dad. And Lindy was like, oh, this baby's on demon mode. It cried every effing 2 hours. Girl, that is what babies freaking do. They wake up pretty often when they're babies to feed, to breastfeed, to do whatever. So it wasn't like a big challenge for them. I don't even know how long they're supposed to have the baby, but you could clearly see that it was a tactic by the experts just to kind of throw something in there just to give them something to do. Because other than that, they really had no storyline. It was very, very just, kind of whatever. So they were pretty boring. I'm going to go... Do I want to go to Alexis and Justin, or do I want to do... You know what? I'm going to do Alexis and Justin now, and then we'll end with Kristen and Mitch, okay? So when Dr. Pia comes to visit Alexis and Justin, they're having an argument already that she can hear from the other side of the door. So instead of her having this conversation with them about trust and intimacy, she basically became like a therapist and was dealing with their current issue. The surface level issue is that Justin has a problem with the fact that Alexis goes out every weekend. You shouldn't be going to the club every weekend. I feel like you're living a single life. Or like, you don't even want to hang out with me. And her defense is that, I have my friends. I love my friends. I want to hang out with my friends. I'm not going out for like hours at a time. It's not even the club every time. Sometimes I'm just going to brunch. I'm just hanging out for an hour and a half, 2 hours. So I can't even hang out for 2 hours for one day of the weekend. So like, I come home early every night to spend with you, and I'm only going out once during the weekend. And sometimes it's for a short amount of time. Like, I don't understand the problem. I love my friends, whatever. The baseline of that issue is and I've said this before, not on here, but when you marry somebody, it helps before you actually get married to have a full-on discussion about what you think marriage is and what specifically you think your marriage should look like. It's important to do that because oftentimes we have very different views on what married life is like. And sometimes that depends on what you saw growing up, sometimes what you saw on TV. But it's still important to have that conversation, because if there's a conflict there, you're supposed to have that conversation to figure out a middle ground. Like, okay, so you want this, but I want this. How about to compromise, we do this? Because at the end of the day, everybody's marriage is what fits for those individual people. There's no standard way that a marriage is supposed to look at all. And with Alexis and Justin getting married at first sight, they didn't get a chance to have that conversation, obviously, before they got married. But I also don't think they really had that conversation at all until now, when they've been kind of forced to talk more about it. And at this point now, my overall assessment, without being a licensed clinician or a licensed anything, I feel like Alexis and Justin, at their core, their beliefs are very, very different. And I personally feel like a lot of the conversations they have, they're just talking in circles. I feel like they're not listening to each other. When they are, I think they're not really understanding each other. I think their intentions are good. I think they genuinely care about each other and want the marriage to work, but I don't think that they are the right people for each other. So, and I will say, in terms of Alexis going to the club every weekend, no, I don't believe that's something you should be doing. But they kept emphasizing the club, right? And she said it's not always the club. Sometimes it's brunch, sometimes whatever. I understand you loving your friends because I love my friends dearly as well. And I was thinking, like, Dad, would my husband have a problem if I went out every single weekend? But our situation is different also. We have babies and we've been married for a very long time. That definitely plays a factor. I feel like if you're in the fifth week of marriage, it's still very fresh and new, and you're still trying to establish yourselves. You're still trying to figure out what this marriage looks like, and you basically have the 8 week mark to decide if you want to stay in this or give up. I feel like if you're still basically in this trial period of marriage, that maybe that's not the best idea to do it every single weekend. Because one thing Alexis did say, which I kind of agree with, she was like, when this conversation came up with Dr. Pia and with Justin, it's like, all I'm hearing is, she's like, the way I'm interpreting it is, me doing this makes me an unfit wife. What I'm not hearing is any kind of compromise. Like, well, Alexis, what about if you just go out once a month? What about if Justin comes out with you or whatever? She's like, I'm not hearing that compromise at all. And that gives me the impression that basically you both are telling me to stop cold turkey because this isn't what a wife does. That's how I'm interpreting this. And I was like, okay, I think I agree with that. There wasn't any mention of compromise at all. It was just Justin saying, when you do this, this is how I feel. But I don't know if the compromise should have come from them either. The compromise probably should have come from Alexis. If your husband is telling you that he has an issue with you doing these particular things, he's not saying don't have friends. He's not saying never leave my side. He's saying, as a married woman, it makes me uncomfortable that you go out every single weekend because I feel like that means you don't want to spend time with me. Then she should have been the one to say, okay, babe, I understand that. I do love my friends, but you do come first. And I think that's what he wanted to hear. And he said that. He said, I feel like I come second to your friends and to your dog. I am not first in your life. And as your husband, I want to be first in your life. I understood the frustration that they were going through. And like I said, looking back at it now, if I'm very fresh in my marriage, I feel like I would have made some concessions. Like, you know what? And a lot of people who get married on the show, they kind of do that. Not that they forget they have a spouse, but they forget to be accommodating to their spouse and change their life up a little bit to accommodate the fact that you are married now. Meaning, if your life is set up a certain way and you get married, the idea of marriage is not to just take that husband or take that wife and to insert them in what you already have established. It's to be married to this person, come over here with this person, and reestablish what your lives look like now. That does not mean you let go of friends. It doesn't mean you let go of the things that you like to do necessarily, depending on what they are. It just means that now that you have somebody that is your partner, some concessions may need to be made and some adjustments may need to be made. Instead of every night, maybe it's just once or twice a week. Instead of every weekend, maybe it's every other weekend. Instead of going to your friend's house and having a sleepover every weekend with your girls, maybe you don't do that anymore. Maybe it's just, special trips. We have a girls trip and we do that. There's ways to still have parts of your single life and still be married and still satisfy your spouse. But that has to be a conversation, and there has to be both people making those kinds of adjustments. So I don't know if Alexis's issue is that she doesn't want to make the adjustments at all, or if she feels like she's already made all these adjustments that have not been acknowledged, and so why should she continue to make more when she doesn't feel like Justin's made any, perhaps. And so one thing that Dr. Pia asked her, she asked her about marriage. Like, do you feel like you were ready to be married? Why did you want to be married? And then she asked her, do you feel like you're ready to be married to Justin in particular? And Alexis said, I don't think so. And when she says this, Justin takes his ring off because, of course, it hurts his feelings. Now, I do understand that hurting her feelings, but I also understand, and Justin needs to understand, that Alexis is not one who's going to mince words. When she decides to speak, she's going to be brutally honest with it. I don't think she has intention at all of being mean or being cold-hearted. It's just, this is how I'm seeing this. This is my interpretation. This is what I'm going to say. I'm sorry that it hurt you, but I also have to be honest and say that this is how I see things. So they have that. Their exercise when it comes to intimacy. And first of all, she kept bringing the whole club thing back up, which was really bothering me. It's like, girl. But I guess she kept bringing it up because it hadn't been resolved. But again, you have to be the one to decide what that compromise is going to be, and then, run it past Justin and see if he's cool with it. And I feel like she kept bringing it up because she was, I don't know if because she didn't think Justin was listening to her, or she thought Justin would have a different approach to it, but it was exhausting me and getting on my nerves. So I know that they were like, yo, we keep been talking about this all day. Can we please just stop talking about this? Because we're not getting anywhere. You've said your piece. I've said my piece. Neither one of us has said anything different. So what's the point of it continuing to bring it up? I don't know. It just got on my nerves a little bit. And one thing Justin did say that I liked, he said he appreciates Alexis. Well, Dr. P was still there. He's like, I appreciate her, but while she's a catch and I recognize that, so am I. He's like, I want this, but I'm not trying to be an option. I was like, okay, I'm glad that Justin values himself enough to say that. That was very nice, not nice of him to say, but I'm proud that he was able to say that he hasn't allowed love to blind him, which I thought was going to be an issue, actually. Oh gosh, okay, what else I said? I said they're talking in circles and it's exhausting to watch them now. And their exercise that they did, I felt like was meant to make Alexis more vulnerable, more comfortable with vulnerability. They had to, she put it, and I've seen couples do this before on the show. She had to put a mask on, an eye mask on, and while the mask was on, he was able to talk uninterrupted about what exactly he felt. And let me just kind of summarize some stuff he said. He's like, I think I'm number 2 after your friends and your dog. I don't think I'll ever be number 1. He said, I'm frustrated with you because you haven't asked me how I feel about the dog, Maya. And he said that he thinks that he and Alexis want different things. And he's questioning their marriage, but said that his love and feelings haven't changed. He's just cautious now. And he seemed relieved, like, whew, man, that felt good to finally get it all out. And I think having the blindfold on for her allowed him to really say all the things he felt like he was trying to say, but it wasn't really coming across. And she has this way of shutting down without looking completely like she's shutting down. Her version of shutting down is not saying all the things she wants to say, but just saying something to kind of stop the conversation for the most part. Or just saying, no, I'm perfectly fine. Yes, I'm good. Okay. Because when he put the blindfold on her, now's the time for her to spew all the things she wants to say. And all she said was, I think he's doing the best he can. I'm thankful for him and the time we spent together. I like his family. And that's it. And he's like, are you sure? Are you positive that's all you want to say? Now, mind you, he shouldn't have said, is that all you want to say? He should have said, is that all you need to say? Because there were other things she needed to say. But she said she chose not to say more because she wanted Justin to have his moment to say everything he needed to. But you speaking your mind would not have taken away from what he said. You not speaking your mind now is a very passive-aggressive move. Because now you're almost painting it as, I'm so happy with our marriage, while Justin is saying these are all the issues with our marriage. So now it's trying to paint you as this certain person, like almost like you're the victim because you are trying really hard and you appreciate him, but it seems like he doesn't appreciate you. So I thought that was kind of a manipulative move, even if she didn't mean to be manipulating. It was a very manipulative move for her to do that because that was the perfect time to just talk without being interrupted, without him saying anything at all, without having to look at his face, without all that stuff. Like that was the time. And she missed that opportunity. So when they get with the guys, when he gets with the guys and she gets with the girls, they, kind of briefly talk about their issues. And Nate was the first one that I think asked Justin outright, do you still want to be married to Alexis? And I feel like that was the first time somebody posed that to him. And he honestly said, I don't know. But I'm glad that somebody asked him that. And let me see, when she was with the girl, she said that Justin is sensitive and she doesn't understand how he feels sometimes. And Justin said he feels like she doesn't want to spend time with him or is attracted to him. Now, he said he's initiated sex a few times, but he's not getting matched with her energy. And she said on the afterparty that we've attempted to have sex before, but it just didn't work. But she never said why it didn't work. So that could be why it didn't work, because she just didn't want to or whatever. Then they get back to their respective apartment. Well, they get back to their apartment and they have a screaming, shouting match. And basically it's about the same thing. And she's mad because she feels like when she had the blindfold on and he said all the stuff he said, she was like, I had to be blindfolded for you to talk to me. Like that pisses me off. Like it takes an expert to come in here and a blindfold for you to actually say what you need to say. I felt like it was the first time I heard all that stuff and that really hurts me. And he's like, no, I'm talking about going to the club. And I've said this. Basically, again, the same argument they have from the top of the episode, they have me at the end of the episode. And it's like, yo, y'all still talking about this? And then a freaking producer, no mask, black woman, beautiful black woman, sure, girl power and all that crap. But she comes on the screen. They even have her name at the bottom. Why do we need to know your name? Why are you on screen? Are you not supposed to be behind the camera? She comes in and talks to Alexis one-on-one. No, talks to Justin one-on-one, talks a little bit to Alexis. And basically at the end, they are sitting at the table together, kind of being forced to have a conversation. You are a producer. You are not an expert. You've never been no freaking expert. Why do we see you on the screen? Why are you talking to them? They have their shouting match. They have their communication issues or whatever. That doesn't mean unless there's a physical fight, the experts don't need to insert themselves at all. Personally, my personal opinion. And they are yelling and shouting at each other. Now they've gone to their separate corners. As an expert, not an expert, as a producer, why are you coming in here now saying something? That was so unnecessary. And that bothered. Y'all know, if y'all been watching my videos for any length of time, you know that I get so irritated when producers insert themselves into the stories, into the lives of these people. That bothers me to no end. But my opinion, I don't think Alexis and Justin are going to make it. I really don't. At this point, the only people I see making it are Lindy and Miguel, Kristen and Mitch, and Sasha and Nate. Morgan and Ben, we are not going to make it. And I don't think Alexis and Justin are going to make it either. But I think the other three have a good chance. So we're going to end with Kristen and Mitch. So Kristen and Mitch at one point were consummating like bunnies, according to Kristen. But they put a pause in it because I guess one of their times of being intimate, Mitch was making some jokes and Kristen didn't find it funny. She was uncomfortable with the fact that he was being all jokey during intimacy time. So she kind of put a kibosh in it for now. He talked to one of his female friends about it just to kind of get her input. And the female friend was basically like, yo, I agree with her. Like, I wouldn't want somebody making jokes while I'm trying to get sexy either. So you need to talk to her about it. But let her know. Because he basically said that he feels insecure during intimacy now. And so the friend was like, okay, well, let her know how you feel. But I think she has a valid point. So you need to find a middle ground to that, because I know you're a funny guy, but you also need to know there's a time and place for everything. When Dr. Pia came to visit them, I felt Kristen's energy. She was very quiet. She wasn't smiling as much as she normally does. She just kind of seemed to be there, but not really there. And then they were pulling questions out of a bowl and answering them. And the question was, who was your childhood hero or heroine? So I forgot what his answer was, but she said her mom. She talked about her mom being a Cuban immigrant. Did not know her mother was Cuban. I was like, oh, okay. Had no idea. So she's talking about, like, my mom was this rock star. She was great. She's whatever. And Mitch asked her, like, oh, he's like, did you read the question correctly? He's like, that was your, he's like, all the stuff you said about your mom and stuff you're saying in the present tense is asking who your childhood hero was. So she was your hero as a child, right? And she was like, her whole body shut down. And she was like, yes. And obviously Dr. P noticed it. We all noticed that her energy immediately changed. And she started crying. She's like, I mean, why couldn't he just accept it as an answer? Like, why would he question me about that? Like, I'm very sensitive about my family. It seemed like a really weird thing to cry about, because I understood his question. He wasn't trying to say anything about her mom or trying to say anything at all. He literally was just like, I always want to make sure you understand, because she said childhood hero, not current hero. No, so that's still the same answer. Just to get clarification, I didn't think anything was wrong with what he asked. I thought that Kristen was kind of overly sensitive in that moment, but it also gave me the opinion that it's something greater than him making that comment that made her have tears. And I think it's just overall, she wants more out of the marriage than she's actually getting. That was the impression that I got, that it's just some buildup that was making her have that kind of reaction to his comment. And they put the brakes on sex for now. And what she said to Dr. P is that she wants Mitch from last week. Now, last week we saw them reading their letters to their childhood selves and, talking about how they grew up. And he broke down in his letter, like crying. And she loved that. She got to see the vulnerable side of Mitch, the emotional side of Mitch. So she wants more of that incorporated into their marriage on a regular basis. Not that he has to cry all the time, but just being that in tune with his emotions and in tune with hers. That's what she wants. And I don't know if she was able to really communicate that before. But he did get vulnerable, because one of the questions was talk about a low point in your life, I think. And he talked about going through depression and feeling like a failure after this business idea he had didn't get off the ground. And, he wasn't crying when he told the story, but it's still a matter of him openly talking about how this affected me and how I felt this way. But then I used that pain and that depression to now do this. And now I'm happy with what I'm doing. All this other stuff. And she was like, oh, okay. And it was just something small, still like another small peek into who Mitch is as a person and to how he became the person that he is. And it's little things like that that I think she needs. As long as she gets little things like that on a continuous basis, I think that she'll be okay. One of their exercises was they had to explore each other's bodies without jokes, making no jokes whatsoever. So it wasn't sex, but it was just kind of touching each other to see what you like, what you don't like. And, she liked it and said, maybe this will help us get intimate again. And she seems to be ready to kind of pull her walls down a little bit and stop pushing him away and get back to being intimate, but probably at a slower pace than they were before. Where Mitch told the guys that he enjoys Kristen, enjoys where their marriage is, but it's hard for him to really see the big picture of the rest of their lives, spending the rest of their lives together. But I don't know if that's because of Kristen specifically, or if that's because his mind just doesn't work that way in terms of looking at, the long road, looking at the long haul and what this looks like. I still think they have a good chance of making it, though. I think they both really want it, and I think they're very, very good at communicating with each other, listening to each other, and actively making little changes to make the other person happy. I think they're both really good at that. And that comes with maturity, obviously, but I think they genuinely care about each other. So I think they're gonna be okay. So my overall synopsis about last night's episode: Alexis and Justin bored me to tears. Stasha, if the relationship does not work, is going to be Stasha's fault. Lindy and Miguel are boring, but Lindy can be annoying to me at times. She just can be. Kristen and Mitch, I feel like, have the strongest foundation. Morgan and Ben should never been on the show. That's just my synopsis. But that's my review and recap of Married at First Sight, Season 15, Episode 12. Please comment below, you guys. Let me know what you guys think of the couples, who you're rooting for, who you're not rooting for. Make sure you like this video, comment, again, share the video, all that stuff, and make sure you hit the notification bell and just subscribe to my channel. I reached 200 subscribers and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So thank you guys for those of you who have subscribed. If you have not, please subscribe to my video. It really does a lot for me and just makes me feel happy. And I love talking about the show with you guys. And so, yeah, I hope you guys will comment and we can have great communication like we normally do. And I'll see you guys next week. Peace.